We are live on stage. Morgan J. Ingram, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. What's the hat? Think. What is Think?
Yeah, so it's a conference I went to last week, Grow with Video Summit, and the company who put it on is called Think Media. The CEO's name is Sean Cannell. I feel I've ever seen his content. So I learned a lot. Great people. I enjoyed learning from him. We chopped it up a little bit. And the hat was like clean. So I was like, Think, like this is fresh. I was like, yo, I need a hat. And here we are.
It's nice. I love it. You can join the Kevin Dorsey Black Hat aficionado gang with that hat.
100%. 100%.
So we're gonna jump right in here in a moment as you know the crowd filters in. And we give everybody a minute buffer in between meetings. While we do that, though, Morgan, your journey is super interesting. So let's start by talking about get an overview of you. And I think a lot of people have a sense of it, but I don't think people really know how significant a pivot you are executing right now. And so talk to us about
Yeah.
where you started and what the journey has been and where you are now.
Yeah. So most people in the room, if you are this, you can put a 1 in the chat. I started off as an SDR. And low-key, I feel like I got bamboozled. I mean, like about being an SDR. Like it's like, yo, you're gonna make money, and you just call people and you schedule meetings, and like that sounds easy, Kyle, when you think about it. Like when some companies you said you're gonna schedule meetings, you don't have to sell anything, you don't have to close business, and you get comped on just scheduling a meeting. That actually sounds very easy. But it's not at all. And so, yeah, that's where I started cold calling, cold emailing. Then I started a YouTube channel, SDR Chronicles, and that's what really got my brand going on LinkedIn. And then I was with John Barrows for 3.5, 4 years doing sales training. So makes sense on that pivot to just go do sales training for SDRs and account executives and account managers on how to prospect. And I learned a lot from that. And then I was like, I learned so much from creating content on LinkedIn because I've been doing it since 2016. And I saw this rise of B2B influencers and subject matter experts that I decided to get into B2B influencer marketing and helping people with brands really connect with buyers through B2B creators, whether that's internal people that are subject matter experts or B2B influencers, which is obviously a shift, right, from what I was doing previously. But I do believe that it's the future of how people will get pipeline. And so I was like, let me latch on to that. So it's been a crazy transition. I've learned a lot, but we've seen a lot of success so far, and it's been fun.
That's awesome, man. And I'm not surprised to hear that it's been both challenging and rewarding for you.
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up, Morgan, is because you just told the story and it's an easy story to tell retrospectively. You know, it's
Yeah.
easy, as Steve Jobs says, to connect the dots looking backwards. But I want to use this opportunity for you to give advice to a lot of people in this room who may be earlier in their career or maybe undergoing some sort of existential crisis with all things AI. And they're like, where do I fit in this ecosystem? Like, what kind of career advice do you have for people? How should they think about the skills they're building and leveraging those skill sets?
So it comes down to 3 things. And even last week, it was good to see a lot of those 3 things come into action for a lot of people I was speaking to that were in a transition period or didn't know where to go with their content or YouTube channel. That's what we were talking about. So number 1, and you'll probably have heard this before, but Kyle, you probably feel this way more and more as you just go along your career journey, is listen to your gut and understand what that means, and then look at the facts. So I'll give you an example. So when I was picking out the role to be an SDR, there was a lot of different companies I could have gone to. I knew though I needed to go into sales because I needed to learn how to sell, because at some point I wanted to start my own thing. So intuition wise, I was like, I need to understand how to do this, because if I start my own thing, I'm going to have to sell the service, the product, people, right? The vision. Like you got to know how to do that. Otherwise you're not going to go that far. So that's why I went and did that. But the thing is, you can't just say I'm going to be an SDR or go in sales without being attached to a good company, because you can be really good and be not good because of the environment. And we see that a lot in sports. There are some fantastic players, but they're on terrible teams, right? And they don't get to go anywhere. So you have to make that decision. So I think overall, right, I look at what I'm thinking about, I take that action. The company I decided to join was Terminus, and I saw that they were creating a new category around account-based marketing. which is very similar to what HubSpot did with inbound. And so that's why I was like, I want to go work there as an SDR. Plus, at some point, I wanted to get into selling to marketing again, right? Or selling to marketers. And I wanted to get into marketing. So it made sense to sell to marketers. So that's the reason why I picked that.
Yeah.
So I think the key thing at the end of the day is you have to take a step back and listen to what your intuition is saying. And then once you understand what the intuition is saying, then you can drill into that and say, okay, what's the data saying? Where's the market going? And then you match both of those. And so for every opportunity I've done, that's been the case every single time.
It's really interesting. So thank you, Morgan. And I hope everybody recognizes how sage that wisdom is and uses that advice. And part of the reason I wanted to talk about this is we're going to get into the more tactical AI use cases here. But the way that Morgan is thinking is strategic. And you can't outsource strategy to AI. You need that strategic thinking to set the processes, to trigger the workflows, to create the actions, to actually put the AI to work for you. So the way that Morgan just explained his career trajectory and the way he thought about his career, it's very systems level thinking. And that kind of systems level thinking is critical for making AI work. And so I encourage everybody to, at some point, and I know it's hard because everybody's busy running a million miles a minute, but just sit down and think for a little while. If you can sit down and think every day, you are going to be leaps and bounds ahead of where everybody else is, because most people just don't take the time to do it. And they end up not building that strategic muscle that has served Morgan so well in his career. And now we're about to show the AI use cases and how that strategy manifests into actual business value that you're able to drive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to say one, before we go into the tactics here, because I know that's what everybody's here for, I would add another thing is finding mentors or virtual mentors. So if I want to go do something, I just go find the person who's doing it, and either I go work for them, right? Or I pay for their time. Now, a lot of people, I know you may not be able to do that, or you don't feel like doing that. That's fine. I've just realized that I'd rather just go to the source of information rather than guessing what's going to happen, which I've done in the past. And you could do that, but I've actually just like, I'll find someone, I'll read a book, I'll message them and say, how much is it for your hour? Now, this is where it becomes very interesting, Kyle. Most people that reach out to individuals are like, can I pick your brain for 30 minutes for free?
Yeah.
They're definitely going to probably say no to that. But I've actually found when I ask people to pay them, sometimes they'll be like, okay, the fact that you asked to pay, like either it's less than what they typically would do, or they'll actually just do it for free because I asked, because I respect their time.
Yeah.
So I respect everyone's time. I'll pay for it. I inherently, that's fine with me, because once you do that and have a good conversation, that's a new person and a new ally. Every single person that I'd paid for their time that has mentored me or coached me, we actually end up being friends, and it actually ends up the money ends up coming back in some way. Is what I've seen every single time. So I'm willing to invest into that. So that's just another thing that I would encourage you all to do. As I'm learning a lot of things right now, I just DM people, say, hey, look, like, how much is it for an hour? Like, let me know. And then let's have that conversation, because I have the questions ready to ask that person. So that's something else that's really helped me along the way as well.
It's a great suggestion, Morgan. And I'll say I get a handful of these pick your brain type requests, and they're very easy to ignore. To stand out, and I couldn't agree more, looking for mentors and looking for people that have done what you're trying to do before is such an accelerator for your career. So if anybody on this call is thinking of reaching out to somebody and asking them for something, do not reach out with the general, hey, can I pick your brain for half an hour? My suggestion, and what always stands out to me is, and you can go the Morgan route and ask them to pay for the time, or you can go this route, which is be very specific about what you're trying to learn, and then outline, I'm thinking of option A, doing this, or option B, doing this. I'd love to chat with you for 30 minutes about which option you think is best and why. And show them that you're actually thinking about the scenario, showing them that you're reaching out to them for a specific reason because they've done something that's really meaningful to you that you're trying to learn from. And the more specific you can be and the more thoughtful you can be about it, the more you increase your odds for success. So there's my tip on finding mentors.
I love it. I love it. No, and that's the piece. I would say there's probably more to it. I know people for the AI tactics, but I think ultimately intuition, reversing engineering my logic, finding mentors and things of that nature, and paying attention to where things are going. I'd rather meet everything where it's going rather than be behind. It's also the key thing as well.
100%. And so we're like the age of AI, you have to think about future-proofing yourself, and developing these strategy muscles, developing these critical thinking muscles are extremely important. So yes, we're about to show some AI tactics, but none of this, like Morgan would not be able to execute this at this level if not for the foundation that he has built over the years. So a bit of a preamble, but I think it's really, really important. And I don't want anybody ever to think that AI is just going to be the shortcut that's just going to come in and solve all their problems. It needs to be built on a solid foundation of understanding what you're doing, understanding what you're selling, understanding your personas, all those types of things. And then you can level that up or layer that into a broader strategy that drives real value for your business. And with that, Morgan, the floor is yours to talk us through. I'm really interested in seeing what you're doing.
Yeah. All right. So, some of these things you're gonna see across the board, right? Is things that Kyle, you are already running. So I've just taken it and I've enhanced it, and I'm gonna explain how we're doing it moving forward, and we're extracting the information. And so let's go into the workflows. Now I'm gonna talk. If you follow my concept, I'm gonna talk pretty slow here, right? I'm gonna slow it down, and the reason for that is because this is a lot here. And so if you have questions, like obviously ask. Like I'm not gonna try to like fly by this at all because there's a lot here. Now, what I believe, and I know you believe this as well, and I'm just gonna show y'all what's going on here. My belief is every piece of content you want to create can come from your sales calls, and you could do absolutely nothing else besides that. Like you don't have to do anything else besides this. This one workflow, the reason I'm showing it first is you can build off of this workflow, and you'll see how I built on this, because you don't really have to do anything besides what I'm about to show you on this first one to create an insane amount of content and also cross-reference the questions that you want. So what is this workflow? This workflow, as you see right here, is I take my sales calls and internal meetings and I put them in here to summarize the call, get use cases, tell me who I need to be speaking to, questions asked, unanswered questions, tech stack, budget timeline, etc. Now, this is from the copy team, and I've added some things in here for myself, and I've taken this actually to even expand it even more. But you see it has access level, next strong question, suggest next steps, draft follow-up email. So I've taken all this one workflow. Now, within this workflow, I'm going to show you all this table on how it works. Now, every single day, at the end of every single day, I have my EA put in every single call in this transcript. So I don't put this in here. I look at it at the end of the week to see what's going on, unless I need it for a follow-up email. And the premise of this, as you see, I've done a lot of these, is I want to get an understanding of, number one, from the sales calls perspective, what is landing? Now, some of you may have really good intuition and experience in sales, so you already know that. But most of the time we don't know, especially if you start something new or you're at a new company, you don't know what questions are landing yet. So if you're doing a volume of calls, the use case of the volume of calls could tell you what's landing and what's not, right? And I'll show you the example of how you can correlate with that. The second thing is I'm taking this and I'm actually extracting it into content. And so I'm actually creating LinkedIn posts from this that I continuously use. But now I guess at the end of the day, everyone's gonna be like, all your posts are AI. Well, it is what it is. Like they're a framework of AI to be fair. And then the third thing is this actually gets me an understanding of how did the call actually go? Like I think it might have went well, but then the AI tells me it went well or not. So let's go over from a sales perspective how I look at this process. So if we go all the way over here, let's see. Oh yeah, executive assistant. I'm using a lot of terminology. Executive assistant or virtual assistant, someone essentially who does a lot of the manual tasks. So the reason for that, to give you context, Kyle, I'm sure you're taking this. I wish I would have done this as a sales rep, is get an assistant. I think that would have been a smart decision for me that I did not do, even when I was in full sales cycle, because I read a book by Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. And within that, it talks about how you need to go and get assistants, et cetera, to help you with manual inputs. So essentially, that would have sped up a lot of things. But you'll see here, if you go to the assess interest level, what I do is I just look at what the interest level of a conversation is. So this was like a sales call, right? But you'll see, right, that actually, hold on, pull this back up. We'll go to assess the call real quick so you can see exactly what's going on. So if we go over down here to extract important people, wow moments, assess interest level. So what I like to do is see, when did the person get excited? So let's say, for example, I brought up this like idea of a series. So I was like, wow, okay, like that series like really hit, right? So now I need to talk more about this idea that I had with her, or this LinkedIn teardown thing. So now, right, what I could do is go to this LinkedIn teardown and then break it down and then say, this was a good idea. I need to create more content on this. So I like the interest level because it gives me understanding of what should I ask more of in a conversation, but it also gives me content ideas because people really like that in the conversation. So now I can figure out what to say and what not to say. So I really like that across the board. And then also as well, it gives you this draft follow up email too, right? So really, right, if we're looking at this, that's why I like the access level across the board, because now I can get an understanding of my interest level in the conversation. And again, all I'm doing here is for each one. And someone asked, I think we got that. I'm just putting the transcript of the call. So Gong, I use Fathom, whatever you use. I'm putting it in there to get the interest, right? And then now I can continuously go here and figure out, okay, boom, if I go down again to look at, again, these are all the use cases, right? I can then see again, right, what people what people liked and what people didn't like. But that's the key, because once you get a consistent theme, right, then you have an understanding of where you need to go and how you should go about it. So I always tell people the interest level is probably one of the more key things about this, because now I know what to gear towards the next time.
Right. So Morgan, how did you do this before AI? And how reliable do you think you were at sussing this kind of thing out?
I mean, it probably was just like me feeling good about it. or what we would do is I would ask the client at the end of the call or at the end of the close, and I'd say like, what led you to wanting to work with us? And I could pin that back to answers that they had and what questions we asked. Or I would literally just have to go inside the transcripts and listen to the call again to figure out their reaction on how I asked the question. Right. That's a longer process. This gets you the interest level immediately. I can say, okay, this is what's going on, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. And so the distinction or the difference between, some people I think we're asking in the chat, like, could I use ChatGPT for this or something like that? And maybe you may be able to go and paste the transcript in and then ask it all the right questions, but you have to be very good at writing prompts to the ChatGPT, and you have to do it painstakingly over and over and over again. The process here is create the workflow once, and then as Morgan said, just paste in the transcript in this table, and it automatically runs every time. So Morgan you have all these insights basically in real time when you need them in a fully or mostly automated way.
Yeah, I wanna come back to this, right? Actually, hold on, let me go back to the build here. So here's the thing. Before Copy.ai, I built most of these things in ChatGPT. So can you do it? To Kyle's point, absolutely. The obstacle you're going to run up against is running the model over and over again in the conversation, and you can only keep it in one conversation. So it gets very, very, I would say it just gets confusing, to be fair, because if you have one conversation, you have to scroll. You have to scroll away back up, then you have to tell it to remember it, then you have to redo it's just a lot more work. Now, if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm not against that. I'm just telling you, as a salesperson who has a lot of things going on, as just a solopreneur business owner that I am now, like, I don't have as much time to go through and redo all the prompts. So you'll see here, this is the workflow. You put in the transcript, it summarizes the call, it gives you the use cases, extracts, it does all these things for you. And you also can do this at bulk. So again, my assistant will come in and put all the transcripts in here at the end of the day and just clicks run all, and then we're good. We don't have to do anymore. I don't have to say, hey, do this prompt, do this thing. That just takes more time. So I'm hoping that clarifies it for some people that were wondering, do I need to use ChatGPT? You can, but this is a better way of going about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's cool. And then because, again, going back to what we talked about at the jump, because you have so much experience doing sales and understanding what good looks like, you can take the AI recommendations here and you can sort of apply a little bit of a grain of salt and say, does this actually track back with what I know from my experience is a good next step or is a good follow-up email or what it is? So the AI is definitely helpful in creating a very useful overview and a very useful first draft for outreach and things like that. But it still requires your expertise to, get it the last mile and put the polish on it.
Exactly. So when you're in this conversation, right? Here's another thing as well. So we're gonna go back to this example. This is a recent call. So one of the things that I've been testing here is key questions, right? So in the conversation, there are questions that are leading to the high assessment rank. So some of you probably wondering, how do I ask better sales questions, right? I'm assuming everyone here wants to know that. No, this wasn't a sales call. I just added this today, actually. Actually, yesterday I added this. And so this is a new one that we're running within this workflow. So what I'm doing is these are key questions that I answered in depth, but also questions that I also asked in depth. So it's both here. So we were talking about my content, and you'll see these are the answers that I gave. So now we can go back and get into those answers. So these are really good for internal calls. So if you have an internal call, and let's say you're talking to someone, this is really good for content. But also what this is good for is if you're speaking to a customer and you give a good answer, that is now content and that is now actually good for your sales team. Because from a customer success standpoint, there are so many good sound bites that you can use to leverage moving forward for your team. So as the business owner, I'm working all functions, right? I'm working for the content. I'm also working on the sales calls, and I'm also working in the customer realm. So now all our customer calls are getting the answers that we provided. And if our assessment rate is our interest level is high on those calls, because we do it for sales calls and also customers, we now can get an understanding of what we should be using moving forward, which is the exciting part. So that's
I
why you
love
see
this.
this right here. That's why you see this breakdown right here. And now we can get an understanding of how we're going to move forward in our content and also with our customers. So that's why I really like this one we're doing right now. A lot of testing with it, but some good stuff we can do.
That's really cool, Morgan. So you're able to hone your sales process internally, know what kinds of questions yield better conversations and move
Yep.
deals forward. And as we talk about future proofing yourself, now you're able to take the talk track that you gave on a call and easily turn that into content that you can publish on LinkedIn or on your blog or as an
100%.
article or a newsletter or whatever it is. So you can show the market, I have expertise on this thing. And it's based on your words from a transcript that you
Right.
created. So it's not like some BS thing that, the AI is just scraping the internet and then cobbling something together. It's
Yep.
your actual POV, it's your actual words. And so
Yep.
that's how you can quote unquote build a brand for yourself and show the market that you have real expertise here, position yourself as somebody as a thinker that people can get
Exactly.
real value from.
100%. And that's the key, right? Is that what you want to think about is three aspects. One is the internal calls you have. Two is the sales calls. Three is your customer calls. Now, Scott asked this question: Will the coaching provide alternate guidance on how to handle it? Yes, it can. And Rick just went in there. You just want to make sure that you give it a guideline of who is doing the coaching, right? Because if you don't give it an input of what coaching you want, or framework, or system, or let's say if it's Miller Hyman, there's a question-based selling method, right? There's obviously challenger sale. If it doesn't know those things, it's going to lead you astray. I'm just be transparent with you, because it doesn't know what it doesn't know, right? So if you just put in, for example, I want the greatest cold email ever, well, that's actually not going to work for you, because it doesn't know what that means. And so if you're going to have coaching involved with it, you want to put that in there. I haven't inputted this yet, because we don't do millions and millions of calls. Like, you sell to selected companies, and so I have a good gauge of what we can improve on based on what we have in here. But it is something that you can do. But Kyle, I don't know if you can speak to that. I'm going to talk about a little bit more here, but I
Yeah,
know you probably have
100%.
more to say on that too.
So it's a great question. These sales transcripts and the way that AI can work with them, you're exactly right, Morgan. Like, you have to tune the AI to look for and respond to the right things. Now, a lot of this Copy AI will give you out of the box, so you don't have to be an expert prompt engineer. You can, of course, get in there and tune it. But for example, we have workflows that will do deal coaching and based on some sort of medic qualification criteria or something like that. And so the prompt that we send to the LLM is we say something to the effect of, you are a trained medic implementation specialist. Read the sales transcript, look for objections that the prospect had, and then look at the response that our seller gave and recommend a better way that we could have responded to that objection. So it's that full prompt where you're telling the AI what qualification framework to use. You're telling it specifically what to look for in the transcript and how to react. And again, a lot of that prompting is out of the box from Copy AI, but you can come in and tweak it for your own specific use cases.
So the last thing I'm going to share here, and then we'll possibly on questions. We'll go to the next one, and this is an important last share. So I'm scrolling through the calls to see what would be a good one. Let's see, we got a good amount here. So we'll use one that's a legitimate like sales call. So one thing you probably saw in here is wow moments. So what I like to look for is the wow moments, because your wow moments on your sales calls are the wow moments you can use for prospecting. I'll say that one more time because it's really important. The wow moments that you have in your sales calls are the wow moments that you can have for your prospecting. So this right here, boom, sales call. I'm going to scroll down and we're going to go to some wow moments that are on here. And so when you get to this moment, right? So here we go. Okay. So you just see different examples, right? I'm not dive too deeply in this, but we were talking about sales coaching. You see all the things that they're talking about. And so a couple things here is he's responding that for their team, it's a lack of skill and confidence for the newer reps. So what does that mean? This now is a value prop I can use in my prospecting messaging. So we're looking for the wow moments that our potential clients and also clients are saying, and we're going to use that to then prospect. This is a huge miss because now, for most people, what I've seen in sales coaching, sales training is saying, oh, well, we're just going to lead with what we believe to be true. No, that doesn't have to matter, right? So like all we need to do is just dive in here and just figure out what the wow moments are. And now we're hearing what the client is saying to be true. So now I know that it's true for me to prospect and get a meeting, right? And so that's like the key thing I get today. So
100%.
That's the piece.
And it's yes, I'll give it a yes and Morgan. So, the product marketing team and marketers like myself, we think we know everything about the product and the personas and what's going to be cool. But yeah, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, as Mike Tyson has said. And so what's really interesting about this is like, these are the actual things that people are responding to. So now, Morgan, you can, I mean, I know you're working as a solopreneur right now, but if you had a marketing team, you could go back to the marketing and product team and say, hey, these are the things. And here's the transcript, the moments in time. These are the wow moments that we had. Like we should be shouting from the rooftops about these things. So that's one. Marketing, outbound, you can use this in your messaging. And you can use this in your multi-threading efforts. So you're learning now about what is top of mind for this one person or this group of people that were on this call. That should then inform the way that you reach out to other members of the buying group. Now you have way more information about what the actual value props are that are going to get their attention. If it matters to one person of the company, guarantee you it matters to person 8, 2, 3, and 4 at that company. And so it's a really nice way for you to just stay contextual, stay relevant, and really have a good shot at multi-threading in an effective way.
Exactly. So, and hopefully, everyone is breaking that down. How does Morgan start in the build? We can go to the build. I can show you what it is. It's essentially the AI, right? And also just the transcript can really break it down, but this is what it is, right? So this is the wow moment. Again, like I said, I basically took, right, the framework that Copy already had, and then I just used that as my framework, right? So now that it's basically here, but it's basically they just react in a positive way. And there's a sentiment inside the transcripts that I have that can tell when there's positive emotion evoked. So the transcripts that I have, it's a different conversation, but those transcripts can assess sentiment of positive and like high inflection points. So the positive and high inflection points, that's what it's looking for. Again, if you want to, you could look through those manually, but I just say, hey, look, like just AI can figure that out. And so it finds the times where people are excited, they have high emotion, they're like, oh, this is great. And now we take those, right, to then use it in our content. So Aaron, hopefully that helps answer the question there. Okay, so let me pause here because we're going to go to another workflow here. But before we do that, one, does anyone have any questions? And for everyone here, two, have you found this helpful so far? And then we'll move on to the next workflow that incorporates the wow moments.
I think we've done a pretty good job hitting the questions in real time, Morgan. So I think Nicole was curious to see the overall workflow setup. So let me take a stab at this while you, can you go to the build again here, Morgan?
Yep.
So the workflow setup, Nicole, every one of these steps that you see in this little chain is effectively a prompt that is being sent to the LLM. So imagine you're sitting in ChatGPT. Every time you write something out and press enter, that's one of the steps in this workflow. What we have done in the way that our platform works is it takes those little actions and it chains them together into what you see here to make them if-then dependencies where summarize call happens first, then we extract the use case, then we extract the competitors, and we output all of those in line in that table that Morgan showed. So you don't have to ever really interface with the LLM in that one-off sort of way. You can design these workflows to be hyper repeatable, as Morgan just showed, to run things over and over and over again and run them automatically based on the triggers. So when a transcript is input, run the rest of these steps and get all the information that you need to get. And that's generally the way that our workflows are all architected for all sorts of go-to-market use cases: sales, marketing, operations, finance, etc.
Awesome. Was that helpful to answer that step-by-step question before we go on to the next thing here?
Nicole says, thank you. That's good.
Cool. Cool. All right, cool. All right, so let's go to the next one. So the thing is, this one is very, very straightforward. But what I will say is, this one is not as crazy. This is three things. Now, what I have identified is video prospecting or using video is a great way to stand out. Kyle, I think you said that you get what? I might be butchering this. You can correct me if I'm wrong. What, 4 to 6 prospecting videos a year or something like that? I don't know. You said something crazy like that. I want to make sure I'm not saying.
I get hundreds of LinkedIn messages and emails per week, and less than 1% are video.
So you're hearing it from Kyle, who posts consistently, has been doing it for a while, and he's a CMO, and he's not getting a video. And also the crazier part is he also has been an SDR and has led SDR teams, but he does not get a video. So again, imagine everyone else that isn't. So the thing that we want to do here is imagine all your emails that are great emails that have gotten responses, but now you have to get in front of other people, and those emails that you're using to get other responses are not getting responses. So now you're wondering, what do we do? Well, you may be calling, you may be emailing, but video is a component. But what I run up against when I talk to people is they're like, I don't have like a video framework. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start. So if you don't know what to do, you don't know how to start, we can just take the email that was successful, that got a response, or any email at anyone's juncture that got a response, and we can extract that information to create video prospecting scripts. Now, I don't want to call them scripts, so let's call them frameworks or flows, but it doesn't really matter. The AI just recognizes the scripts. So all we're doing here, this is actually super straightforward, is I put in a personalized email. So I just did this as an example, and then I put the target persona. And then again, I love the tables because you could, right after this show webinar we have today, you could just go take all the top, some of you probably have big organizations, top 100 great emails that you think are doing well, and put them into here at mass and run them all, and then have all these by the end of the day. So I'll give you an example. So let me see the one I just did recently. So yeah, I was messing around with a lot of these, but you notice I have opening hooks. So these are all video prospecting pieces. To make this super simple, it just comes up with your flow. Now, you're not going to say this word for word, by the way, but what it does is it gets you an idea of where to go, because most people, when they go and create a video, they just don't know what to say. So I have this opening hook here. I have this value prop that you can use, and then you have the social proof, and then you have the call to action. the goal is like every video pretty much follows this that's successful that I've seen. So now I've created this flow from the email that I put in here. So, because you can't just say this on a video, like you got to say a
Right.
little bit more than that.
Yeah.
So that's why they're gonna be like, what? So the video, you want to make this less than 60 seconds. And once they're less than 60 seconds, this actually is the flow. So this is a little bit more words. But the thing is, you don't need to say this word by word. This just guides you. So you'll see the hook is just kind of saying imagine. So the reason we would say like imagine, or another one we use is the reason for my video is because we want people to visualize as we are talking. If you go and watch, if actually, I want you to think about this. If you listen to like Disney does a good job of this too. Most movies you watch or TV shows, if they start a TV show or a trailer or a movie, not all the time, but you'll notice they'll say like imagine. They want you, as you watch the movie, they want you to visualize where you're at. They want you to feel in the setting. That's the reason why they use the word imagine. So here with your videos, you could use the reason for my video is imagine, right? Boom. And then now you have them in a visualized state, as you see here. And then I can break down what you found. Now, again, these are foundational. I don't have like the customized pieces because I don't know who I'm talking to yet. We're going to show how to get that information. But now from here, I can then have my value prop again. And then you always want to add in some testimonials. This is an example of how you can incorporate these testimonials. And then now I have this call to action here as well. So again, a lot of this you can condense down, but I like this because it gives you a framework of, okay, I at least know where to start my video, and then you can deliver it from there.
I like this a lot, Morgan. Can you go to the build step? I want to show you something here in real time and see if you know this. Go click on write script, and then in the
okay, yep.
And then in the advanced settings in the right in the bottom, you can adjust how creative this script is. That's the temperature. So a lot of times what people have trouble with when they're trying to create a video script is they'll go to their website or they'll take the email, but it sounds really robotic because it's not in writing. And so the cool thing about this is you can, if you click down on temperature, you can dial this up or down to introduce more creativity into the language that's used. And just to give you a different way of communicating thoughts or ideas, or just to get your brain thinking a little bit differently about it. And anyway, I just wanted to show you that because it's a cool way to take kind of stodgy written language sometimes and turn it into a script that's maybe something a little bit more inventive that is more fun to say out loud.
We're turning up the temp all the way. I did not know this, y'all. I did not know the temp was here. Now that I know this, might be another long night with AI here. But the thing, but I didn't know this. Okay, I didn't know this. This is fantastic. So I absolutely love that because, okay, so then the question becomes, okay, Jonathan Lewis can ask, can it go to 11? But on top of the creative, can you give it creative inputs to determine what that more creative temperature would be?
That would probably come in the prompting a little bit, Morgan, where you could adjust the prompt if you scroll up a little bit in that rightmost box. You could change the prompts either in the background information or in the prompt itself. A lot of times what we do is we say, we'll find a script that we really like that has the type of language that we want. And we'll say, use language like this. And we'll just copy and paste something so that it kind of learns from itself and what we say good output is. But yeah, that kind of fine tuning would be in the prompting.
Okay, cool. Well, Kyle, thank you for that. I did not know that. So now that I know, we're about to go crazy. We're about to go crazy. I'm telling y'all right now, we're going to go crazy with it. So, I mean, yeah, y'all can see, I mean, in these, like, it's definitely like foundational, could be a little bit out there. I think if we go up to 10, if we ran this again and I ran an email, we probably would see something different in real time. So that's my email to video that is super easy to do, yet this is where most people get stuck with videos. So I was like, let me create something that's just, again, easy to execute, but can get you rolling. So I'm going to pause and see if anyone has questions on this. Again, it's straightforward, but want to make sure this is clear.
I'm seeing Guillermo ask, can you integrate your brand voice into these workflows? The answer is yes. So over on the left, we have this concept of the brand voice where you can define what you want your voice to be and then carry that through all the workflows that you run. So that's relatively easy to do. Oh yeah, Jax just said it in the chat. Thank you, Jax. I think that was it, Morgan. I think you did a good job handling those in real time.
Okay. Perfect. Want to make sure it's clear. AI can be crazy, so we got to make sure that everyone's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So you have all this stuff in the wow moments. Just want to make sure we're clear on what's happening next. We have the wow moments. That's my favorite part of that first flow. Once you go into the wow moments, right? Then the next piece of that is we take the wow moments to then create these video breakdowns of these frameworks, right? Like I just did here. Now, the next one is this actually might be my favorite because I used to do this manually. So, and then I've just, again, a lot of things I'm doing here is I'm taking frameworks that, and I did it this way for you all today because I didn't want to go so crazy where it's like, let's create this custom, like that might be a part 2, right? But what we're doing here is I'm just taking stuff that is already built and we're evolving it. That's, I believe, is the best step for people when it comes to AI. Is if you want to go learn how to go build your own, then it's fine. I'm just telling you, Copy already has some really good stuff already. Just go in there, play with that, and then build on top of it, and then leverage it in other ways. So what we're gonna go here is this is one that I really like, and I've made like a new one here, and it's all around public companies. So most of you here might do and reach out to public companies. So I'm using Salesforce as an example, and I ran this table. So first one I ran this today for y'all around the earnings piece. Now, what I like to do, actually, I like to scroll all the way down and get and brainstorm value. Now, why is this important? My suggestion to you all on this one, the reason I had this one so simple is because you can run value props with the same, basically different value props with the same company. So what you're selling, your value prop is different based on the problem that you're looking to solve. So again, we just talked about the influencer marketing. If I'm looking to sell to Salesforce right now, I just want to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I could go on the website. I could go read the 10K report. I could go watch interviews. I could go find out what the executives are doing. But what I just told y'all is like probably a week's research. If you want to do it, it's fine. I'm just saying that like we gotta think about it, right? So we gotta do this a little bit differently. So what I'm doing here is I'm allowing it to go ahead using the framework and the foundation that Copy already has, and I'm building right this, and now it's brainstorming value for me. Check this out. The brainstorming of value, I'm then going to take this and create my own personalized emails. And then I'm going to take those personalized emails and throw it into what we just did earlier. So now I have emails and I have video frameworks ready to go. And then now I can go do my prospecting. But for the Salesforce, I could do B2B influencer marketing. I could also say like, what are they doing with like virtual events? What are they doing with all these different aspects, right? I can add in these different value props. And that's ultimately the key, right, of what we want to be able to do there. So that's where I'm going on this one is I'm taking public companies. So actually step one, and this is something that I'm about to do. You can have a CSV, which is insanely cool that they have this, or you can manually input all of the top enterprise companies that you're going after right now, public companies. Then I would literally go to brainstorm value. I mean, you can even look at the analyze 10K, but I actually just really like to look at brainstorm value and figuring out where can you help based on what's going on here, right? And it even gives you the hints already. And then what I'm going to do is find people in my network that I can either reach out to and have conversations with. Now, always cross-reference these things, by the way. I would open up the 10K report and make sure it's actually saying these things because sometimes AI is the most confident person in the world and it could lead you astray. But for the most part, this is accurate because I gave it the PDF. I gave it what it needs. So it should be fine. But that's how I go about this. I'm leveraging the public company information. I'm filtering it through the video prompts. I'm then filtering it through what I know, and I go from there. And again, it saves me hours and hours of research. And do this with your target accounts. And I'd work with marketing and sales on this as well. This is not just a sales function. This is both the function.
This is such a powerful workflow. And like you said before, Morgan, people, I mean, you've been doing this for 10 plus years, so have I. It still takes me a couple hours at a minimum to do all this research and come up with this strong of a POV on this. So to be able to do this in minutes or seconds not just for public companies, we have another
Crazy.
workflow for private companies where instead of inputting a ticker symbol, you input the URL of the company you're trying to research. And it is doing all the research for you so that you can spend time applying that your strategy to that research in a way that you just said. And this, a lot of people talk about personalization when they're talking about outreach, and personalization is nice, but resonance and relevance is really what matters most. And if you know what a company is placing strategic bets on, you better believe that's going to be hyper relevant to everybody that you reach out to in that call. And then if you are on that team, and if you can reach out then via email with nice video messaging and all the rest, the way that Morgan just showed in the workflow, you're going to be just so many cuts above the rest of your competition that are talking a totally different language. So that's what this helps unlock for you. But again, you have to apply a lot of your thinking and your strategy to these insights. You can't just take these insights and expect the meetings to come flowing in.
Yeah, 100%. So I believe, Kyle, we have about 3 minutes left here.
Yeah.
So I want to go crazy with it. Okay. So I want to make sure if we're going to a rabbit hole. So what I would do is, again, I would take literally all your target accounts and put it into here. And then now you can go out here and execute. And this, again, I'm showing you all very simple workflows that are very impactful. We're not going matrix level here today. Like we don't need that, but this is how you're going to execute this. And again, I'm saving you all hours and hours of time. I've done my own manual research with public companies, but this allows you just to move a lot faster and then input it from there. But I know we have 3 minutes left, so I do want to like pause because there could be lasting questions we have, and I want to make sure people feel confident and have clarity on what they can do next year.
So I have a question for you, Morgan. We'll see if
Yeah.
other people feel free, folks, to ask questions in the chat. We'll get to them if we can. My question for you is: you are solopreneur,
Yep.
you are running your own show.
Mhm.
Could you have possibly done this the way you're doing it now without AI?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And for context, I do have a team now. So
Oh yeah,
so
how many people do you have?
we have four in total, including me.
Nice.
So we got people, we got things rolling, but it doesn't matter. Like there's no way I would even assign them to do that though.
Yeah.
There's other things that need to be done. So
yeah,
it would no way that would happen.
Well, I see the output. I see the posts you do. I see all the videos you're producing. I see all the progress, the momentum that you have. You're operating like a 20-person company. It's insane.
The output of content is absurd. And here's the thing though, Kyle. So I'll tell you this and tell you all, and here's some confidence as well, is we're turning it up even more. it's like we're going to Twitter, we're going to YouTube, and we're going to these places. And so now what I'm doing is I'm taking the calls, right? People are like, oh, how do we come up with YouTube ideas? I'm like, yeah, we're just gonna take the calls.
Turn them into videos.
And we're going to turn them into videos. I'm not trying to make this hard. Like all we need to do, I tell my teams, all we need to do is execute.
Right. And the
We
flywheel,
have the information.
right. And the flywheel feeds itself. You create great content that attracts more people, that creates more calls, that creates more content, that attracts more people. So it's the flywheel that keeps turning. And it's all based on the content strategy that you have. But it's also, again, going back to what we said before, your point of view, your perspective, your thought leadership, like that's critical. Otherwise, the flywheel doesn't spin. If you have boring ideas that aren't going to be helpful to anybody or move the needle or anything like that, the flywheel can't turn.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about, Aaron asked about how you are sharpening your skills for actual like AI prompting and thinking about how to tune those prompts.
This answer is not what you think I'm going to answer this. I actually spend more time understanding how do I ask better questions. So I've actually spent more time reading books on sales and how to ask better questions. Because if you ask better questions, then your prompting is better.
Yeah.
And your inputs are better. So I actually spend a lot more time doing that. And there are people that I follow, like Nikki Saunders, for example. She's deep into content and she's deep into this AI, and she has some really good prompts. And so I actually personally following her, if I can give you a person. But Aaron, I've actually spent a lot more time understanding how to ask better sales questions more than anything. That's led me on this path.
Nice. I'm happy to hear that. So one other thing that people are asking, I'm actually going to take a stab at answering, if that's all right, Morgan, which is like,
Yep. Go ahead.
the art of the possible can be somewhat intimidating, and it's like, well, how do I actually get started? And so we try and make that relatively easy for you. And this was a question Richard just asked. And so let me just show you how we approach things. So you can see my screen right now. We have this concept of workflows that Morgan just walked through, but we organize those workflows into functional workflow libraries. So if you are interested in what Morgan just talked through and you want to research a private company, research a public company, all of these are here. And all you have to do is just click them, and then you'll be taken to the actual workflow itself, and you don't have to do anything. You can go in and, like Morgan has been doing, you can tune these prompts to say, to add something to the prompt or something like that. But all of this is out of the box. And in fact, let me just share this with you now. If you want to use this public company workflow that Morgan showed off, it's accessible for you right now. So we try and make it easy to start. We try and demystify the art of the possible. So hopefully that's helpful. Cool. All right, y'all, we're out of time. Morgan, thank you so much. You're the absolute best. Really, really appreciate it. There will be a recording. We'll send it out to everybody registered for the webinar. And I promise we'll be doing more with Morgan in the future, because I learn something, at least 5 new things every time I hear the man talk. So Morgan, thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you all for the great questions, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Cheers.